Tools and Twisties, precision tools and performance cars. Hey, we've been talking a lot about the Harbor Freight Icon Ratchet Black Friday sale. Everything from this great 1/4 inch flex ratchet to the monster 1/2 inch flex. Both Generation 2 ratchets, both great. Today we're not going to focus on the ratchets, but I'm going to give you some feedback on the ratchets a little bit later in the video. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some Milwaukee tools and some Tekton tools and how we use them and how they relate to this jack. So Black Friday sale is on right now, but even if you're seeing this video after the Black Friday sale is over, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on how to compare the different Daytona jacks, which ones I think are great and which ones I think are not as good, which ones you might want to buy. So let's get started. Again, Black Friday sale. The Icon ratchets are 40% off. The Daytona jacks are 30% off. Pretty good deals. And you know, Icon or Harbor Freight has really cornered the market with these Daytona jacks. They are excellent. You walk into, you know, even most professional shops, dealerships, tire stores, wherever, they may have a full tool chest full of snap-on tools and be total snap-on junkies, but they'll still have Daytona jacks. They've really done a great job. And when you compare them with some of the tool truck brands, I think one of the differences is that, you know, Snap-on's not making their own jack anyway. And I think that Harbor Freight has managed to either source the same factory or an equivalent factory and make jacks that are just as good as the best of the tool truck brands. So in front of us, we have a couple of jacks, and the sale that's on right now, I think that the Daytona jacks are a little bit confusing. They don't do a great job explaining the differences. They put some buzzwords on them and don't really talk about the differences. But the ones I'm going to focus on today are the 3-ton and 4-ton jacks. I'm not going to talk about the racing jacks. I'm only going to talk about the Daytona 3-ton and 4-ton jacks. And really there's 5 different jacks. And I've done a little table here that compares them. And part of it is going to depend on your use case. But for me, I work a lot on my own cars, and they're almost all sports cars, a lot of Porsches. Clearance and lift height are the 2 biggest issues for me. I don't need a 4-ton jack, but I do need it to go as low as possible and lift as high as possible. And these 2 jacks in front of us, I think, represent the 2 best Daytona jacks that are available right now. So the first one is the Daytona low profile Super Duty jack with rapid pump. It's shown in the new metallic green. It lists at $290, and with the 30% off, it's $203. But really, you know, they go on sale throughout the year fairly regularly. Not always at the full 30% off, but, you know, maybe 20% off or a little bit more, a little bit less. They're even good deals at the full price. But this yellow jack here is basically the Super Duty jack. And the important specs to me are the lift height. The minimum height is 3 3/4, which is pretty low, and the maximum lift is 23 1/4, which is really important. And then the second jack, the one behind it, it is not a Daytona jack, but it is the same as the Daytona jack. It is made by KT Tools, comes out of the same factory, and it's the identical jack to this Daytona 3-ton. Long reach, low profile. Now I bought the KT tool because when I needed a second jack, the Daytona was not on sale, and I didn't want to spend $270 for it, and I think I paid $220 or $210 for the KT Tools one. But as you can see at the current sale price, the Daytona is even cheaper. And honestly, I'd rather have the Daytona. It's a little bit easier to deal with if you have a warranty issue, or if you need to replace it, or you just want to match it in the future. But the key specs on this one are the minimum height is 3 3/8, and the maximum height is 24 1/4. This is the highest lift of all the Daytona jacks that are available right now. This one's close at 23 1/4, and it's a little bit less clearance, 3 3/4, 104 pounds. This one's 103 pounds, 3 3/8, 24 1/4. There you can see them side by side. And I think those are the 2 picks of the litter for the Daytona jacks. To go through a few others, and I think the names are confusing. They're all called professional or low profile, and sometimes the specs are significantly different. Like for instance, this one here, which is called the low profile professional, but not long reach and not Super Duty, lists for $200, on sale for $140. And its minimum lift height is 3 1/4, which isn't bad. but it only goes to 19 7/8, under 20 inches lift height, and it's 79 pounds. And you can just sort of tell by the weight of it that it's not as heavy duty as the rest. And then there's the 3-ton, the least expensive of them is the 3-ton Professional. They don't call it low profile. They don't call it long reach. They don't call it Super Duty. And this one is 4 3/4 minimum lift height and 18 1/4. For me, that's a no-go. It does not go high enough and it does not go low enough. This car in front of us is a 1985 911 Turbo 930, and this one doesn't have particularly low clearance. It actually sits up high enough that you can get, you know, a jack underneath it without it being a super low profile jack. But some of the other cars I have and work on frequently are much lower clearance, and you know, I'm not going to be able to fit a 4 3/4 inch jack underneath there. That extra, you know, 1.5 inches makes a pretty big difference. And the lift height between 18 1/4, this goes below 19 inches. Just to give you, you know, a frame of reference, these jack stands that I have back here, which are ESCO jack stands, which by the way, Harbor Freight now makes a clone of these. Daytona makes a clone of these. They're not on sale now, but excellent jack stands. I bought the ESCOs before Daytona made their copy of them. And they're excellent. They're flat top jack stands, and they're great for working on performance cars or other cars where, you know, you don't really want a cradle style that's going to mar up the frame, and there's very specific lift points that you want to be putting it under, or you're putting it under an engine or transmission mount, whatever. But if you see the two jack stands there, the difference between the low one right there and the high one right there, that's the difference in lift height between, you know, a 20-inch lift and or an 18-inch lift, 18 1/4 inch lift, and a 24-inch lift. It may not sound like much, but it's huge. And when you're trying to get a car like this up in the air, when you're going to be doing some long-term, we're going to be doing a full suspension refresh on this, and it's going to be up in the air for several months, and I'm going to be, you know, getting underneath it regularly. The more clearance I have underneath there, the better. You know, I sure wish I had a service lift in here, but I do not. And when you do not have a service lift, putting cars on jack stands and getting them as, you know, as high as possible, and having jacks that lift as high as possible is pretty important. So the last one is the 4-ton jack, and the lift height, the minimum lift height on that is 4 1/4, which is really way too high, and the maximum is only 20 1/4. And I have absolutely no use personally for an extra ton of lift capacity. You know, also note that, you know, a 4-ton jack, if your car weighs 4 tons, you don't need a 4-ton jack. I mean, you're basically lifting a portion of the car with the jack. And if your car is, you know, 5,000 pounds, 6,000 pounds, even if you have a heavy pickup truck that's 7,000 pounds, you know, you're not lifting that entire weight. And when you're lifting up one side, you're actually lifting significantly less than half of the weight, because the gravity is putting most of the weight on the other wheels. By the way, these are the Daytona version of these jack stands with flat tops, $80 for a pair, which is a great deal. They're pretty expensive from ESCO. ESCO is the company that I think invented them or originally made them. The other thing I wanted to point out is this is on sale, the Daytona extra long high leverage jack handle for $20. It's this right down here. And it's about 3 inches longer than the normal one, and it doesn't split in the center. So for $20, if it's a service jack that's staying in your shop or in your garage, I think it's worth grabbing the extra long handle. It makes pumping it up easier. It's much more solid than the other ones. So those are the jacks, and I'm going to go back to the chart here, and you can freeze it if you want to look at that more carefully. But I think that, again, the jacks to get are the low profile, long reach floor jack. That to me is the pick, and that is the same as the blue one back there, or the Super Duty jack, which is the same as this yellow one right here. Those are the two. And so while we're talking about jacking up cars and working on cars, I just wanted to show you, you know, this is the Icon 1/2 inch flex head Generation 2 ratchet, and it's a big guy. And you know, why would you want a ratchet this big? Well, you're probably not going to use it for many things, but you know, for doing things like a tire change on this car, this is a superb tool. yeah, you could use a breaker bar, and I'll use this as a breaker bar. I'll also note that on it is this beautiful Koken wheel protector socket. Work of art. I did a video specifically on some Koken tools. I'll link to it up here if you have a device that shows links. If not, look in the description. And it's a great video that talks about various Icon tools. We did a couple of videos comparing Icon ratchets. I'll also link to them up here. And you can also look in the description for a bunch of other videos that talk about which Icon ratchets I think are great, which ones I think are a miss. You know, the short answer is any of the G2 flex heads are great. There's some other ratchets that are pretty good as well, but the G2 flex heads. And once I get the car up, you know, maybe I'm going to use this Icon to manually remove the wheels. But, you know, the majority of the time I'm using a Milwaukee Impact, and this is the new 3/8 inch M12 High-Torque, 500 foot-pounds of torque impact gun. And I did a review of this as well, and you can see that review up there as well. So if you're looking for some more content to watch, there's a great video on the Milwaukee. There's several videos on the Icon G2 ratchets and a couple videos on the Koken. So that's Tools and Twisties for today. Let me know what you think, which jacks you might be interested in. Do you need a jack that goes extra high? Do you need a jack that goes extra low? Do you need a jack that's more than 3 tons? Do you really need a 4-ton jack? Do you need more than one jack? Are you picking up any during the sale? So let me know in the comments. Let me know what you want to see more videos of. And that's it for today. We are Tools and Twisties, and we are out.